Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News for You? Coming to you this week live from York. In the news this week, on a boating trip in the Mediterranean, Prince Charles finally loses his cool with the paparazzi. As he arrives in Beijing on the final leg of his world tour, Ken Dodd receives a rapturous reception from fans. And in Karachi, a spokesman for Rally Bicycles admits that their self-assembly instructions may have been poorly translated. On Ian Hislop's team is a comedian who has remained true to his roots in stand-up comedy, saying, "I could be doing crap sitcoms as a cranky neighbour, but where's the fun in that?" Know the feeling. Rich Hall. And with Paul Merton tonight is the News of the World journalist who, in a recent column, told Labour supporters to ignore the knockers. And if people did that, no one would buy his paper. Sean Simon. Round one is where we attempt to cover, in anything but the farmyard sense, those people behind the major news stories of the week. Ian and Rich.
Oh, there's Americans exercising their right to screw up the country. That's a new form of execution in Texas, I believe. Asbestos. It's one of the lowest turnouts ever, because I don't think people care. It's kind of like hanging an under new management sign over a porn theater, you know? Got one guy who's been clinically dead for the last 8 years. Another guy whose father was president, but he's actually older than his father. I mean, as we speak, it's down to Florida, which many of you people have been to Florida. You know what it's like. Many of the people, shrunken, shriveled. In the ballots, Gore's name was up high. Bush should have been beside it, but it's actually much lower. A lot of the voters couldn't reach Gore's name.
We can have a look at the ballot sheet here, actually.
Right. This says Gore Lieberman. That sounds like a chant at a Jewish bullfight.
But Bush was briefly president, wasn't he, for 84 minutes?
Yeah, he was contesting the whole recount. And he said, well, according to my brother Jeb, it's a done deal. This is how he's going to run the whole presidency, you know. They told me this Arab Jew thing was a done deal. Uncle Lester told me that yesterday.
Yes, this is the knife-edge vote for America's next president. George Bush recently defended the number of executions he'd authorised as governor of Texas, saying, "I do not believe we have put a guilty, I mean innocent person to death in Texas." I think the world's in safe hands. According to the Sunday Times, Al Gore's image suffers from a legendary stiffness which may prevent him from entering the Oval Office. Oddly enough, the same thing that often prevented Clinton from leaving it. Paul and Sean, what's all this then?
That's the Dome one. Yeah, that'd be the Dome one.
Millennium
the Dome robbery. All the press wrote about a James Bond-type heist which went wrong was outsmarted by an even more audacious police raid. That JCB, they smashed down the perimeter fence, smashed through the side wall of the Dome through some grilling, bombed down to the money zone, parked the JCB, got out of it and walked into the money zone. It's unbelievable. They could have just gone in the front.
Oh, especially if you turn up to the Dome and say, "I'd like to come in," they more or less pull you in.
And you know when they were originally going to do it, the robbers, the raid was originally organised for Monday. In fact, took place 24 hours late.
Why?
Because a German tourist crashed his car.
I thought one of them couldn't get there because of the trains.
They'd have had no problem if they'd had jetpacks. They'd have been straight in, diamond, drag, out, up the River Thames, no speedboat, no trouble.
Yes.
Next time.
So who was actually in the Dome at the time?
No one.
Some school children from Dorset.
Yes, and do you know what they were made to do during the raid?
Keep out of the way, I think.
Sing hymns.
Rock of Ages, wasn't it?
Neil Diamond?
It's the foiled attempt to steal £350 million worth of diamonds. In advance of the break-in, the police replaced the priceless jewels with worthless replicas. Lucky there was a Ratner's in Greenwich. According to The Sun, the gang planned to make their getaway in a high-powered speedboat down the A2 and straight across Kent. Ian and Rich, you're coming shortly.
That's Gordon Brown. That's the leader of the fuel protest. That's an ordinary day on the motorway. No, I think that's a blockade.
Yeah.
The Chancellor more or less gave in. They said you've got to cut fuel tax, and he did, having said he wouldn't. But I think they want to do the protest anyway, because there's been a lot of preparation and it's a bit of a drag. They've got babysitters, a lot of them have left.
He did have that clever reverse double switchback, though, where he did cut the duty, but only on fuel that you can't buy.
Oh, yes. That's the low-sulphur fuel.
That's the kind of the reverse double switchback politician's trick.
Is that the technical term for
That
it?
is the technical phrase, yeah.
Is that the sort of phrase you use at the News of the World?
Frequently, yeah.
Right.
Not in the News of the World, obviously, but at the News of the World.
Right. So, who are the two main leaders of the fuel lobby, as they call themselves? We saw one of them in the VT.
Was that Hanley?
Yeah, David Hanley.
Who's the other one? The farmer one?
Brynell Williams.
Right,
Yeah.
he's the farmer, because there's an odd alliance, isn't it, between the farmers and the truckers, and quite easy to feel sympathy with farmers, less easy with truckers, really.
Unless you can combine the two factions, the farmers and the truckers, and come up with a new name.
So this is Gordon Brown's pre-budget report. One of the measures announced by the Chancellor this week was a tax benefit for people who live above shops. So good news for Mohammed Al-Fayed. And finally, Paul and Sean, the weather.
More flooding. It's carrying on, isn't it? So that's it, Prince Charles. It said it's the fault of mankind. It's global warming. We are reaping what we have sown.
And they are the sandbags. I am fascinated by the sandbags. Where do they come from?
They come from Saudi Arabia.
Where did they get them from?
Well, there's blind children over there. Just put sand into sacks, they sew it up, and they send it to us for 23 pence a bag.
But what do we do with the sandbags all the rest of the time?
Well, old people eat them. It's ballast in high wind.
All right.
You never see an old age pensioner flying, unless, of course, they've got their own jetpack. You never see an old age pensioner because they're full of sand.
What about the kayaks? You can guarantee you can't see 30 seconds of flood footage without some smug bastard in a yellow kayak coming down the road. Where do they get the kayaks from? What are they doing with those kayaks?
Well, do you remember that 1973, probably a bit before your time, there was a great kayak shortage in Western Europe. And everybody in Great Britain stored up for one. It was a case of sort of like, it was during the fuel strike when we had the 3-day week and all that. There was a popular expression at the time, you can't have your kayak and heat it. You must have heard that.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, you must have heard about it.
Yeah.
So the other disasters this week, caused by the weather. Did you read about the seal that turned up in North Yorkshire?
Yeah, posing as a disc jockey.
Why is that a disaster?
Well, he didn't have any records.
More that it was 20 miles inland. That's why it was a slight disaster for the seal. Anyway.
Right, yeah, sure, yeah.
And one or two celebrities came a cropper this week.
Is it Mary Parkinson?
No, it's Bill Tidy, cartoonist for Private Eye.
He's not a celeb. He's a genius.
Yes, did he not?
Celebrity?
He lost
Best artist in the
100,000...
country. You're a celebrity. Bill Tidy's got a job.
Rolf Harris is another one.
Yes,
The Thames is lapping at his doorstep.
Right.
that's right. And Michael Parkinson as well, and his wife
Did you see Animal Hospital? I've never seen Animal Hospital until I saw it last week, because it goes out before the show. The last 10 minutes is all about this poor dog that's died. And now comedy. The most extraordinary run into a comedy show I've ever seen. He's just talking about, the poor little bastard didn't make it. And then, you know, here's his grave, and... Oh, it's awful.
God,
People- it's awful.
killed a comedy show.
Absolutely.
Bringing something like that up.
Yeah.
God.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Jeffrey Archer's house is completely underwater.
Excellent.
quite true. I just said it for effect.
This week, Connex cancelled all trains between London and Brighton, Eastbourne, Haywards Heath and Lewis, so at least one company managed to maintain normal service. So, at the end of that round, well, both teams have got off to a good start, or in Ian's case, finish, with 4 points each. So to the worrying problem of adult illiteracy, as illustrated by the usual brace of tabloid headlines, Ian and Rich, hash you like it.
Now, I think this is meant to be a pun on as you like it. Some archaeologists have found traces of marijuana in Shakespeare's pipe. Apparently they've been digging around in Stratford and looking for clues that he was stoned when he wrote all these plays.
Maybe this should be sort of, they should now interpret Shakespeare's plays, they should perform Shakespeare's plays bearing this in mind. To be your...
It would take a while, though, to get through King Lear, wouldn't it? Really, yes. 3 days later. What was cannabis used for back in those days?
Trousers.
Well, ropes and canvases. So
Yeah, canvas trousers, rope trousers. We're familiar with them, aren't we?
Rope trousers?
Rope trousers.
Right. How familiar are we with those?
Well, haven't you got a pair of rope trousers?
For sailors to climb up.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Whistling as they go.
This is then the revelation this week that Shakespeare may have used cannabis. Although available, smoking cannabis wasn't widely popular in the 16th century, mainly because it then entailed a 6-month ship journey to the Dutch East Indies to get some chocolate. Paul and Sean, your odd tumbler. Archaeologist in a hole.
This is the sad case of the man in Japan, who was quite a famous archaeologist. He's found lots of things. He suddenly got a bit suspicious because he was finding more than other archaeologists. He was top of the Archaeologist Premier League. He was, nobody was near him. He had so many points in hand for discovering things. It turned out he was just putting things in the ground and going back the next day and saying, oh, look what I found. And they got photographs of him doing it. Just stuff from his house and just put it in the ground. So, it's somewhere around. Oh, it's in there. Oh, look at that.
This is amazing. I'm amazed, but I thought he was making all that up. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
Is
it?
And what was the sensational find that they dug up in China a couple of months ago? Do you remember this? They found a 2,000-year-old
Mammoth. Toilet.
That's it.
Whoa.
Wow.
And do you know what the Chinese invented about 100 years later?
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper, yeah.
What, made out of marijuana?
You're trying to link two stories now, aren't you?
No, I was thinking of other ways of taking it.
So what did people do before this stuff was invented? They used to slide down the banisters.
If they had been sliding down the banisters, what would they use as banisters? I mean, you wouldn't want to use it as a banister and,
Well, you would have two banisters, so you'd have your shit banister, that's your hand banister. That's why you've got two banisters.
No, that's why these days there's often only one banister, because one of them has become superfluous.
Yeah. And the banisters during the Second World War were melted down and be turned into Spitfires.
And they were never rebuilt again.
That's right.
But by that
You've been
stage, the
listening
Chinese
to
invented
Talking
toilet
Bollocks.
With your host.
Yes. This is the disgraced
Could be a
Japanese...
ventriloquist act. You could give them different names and identities, couldn't you? Pinky and Perky, something like that. Drinking a glass of water might be unusual. They could be talking while you're having a piss into a glass.
This is the disgraced Japanese archaeologist who admitted that he had faked the results of his digs using items from his own house. Suspicions were first aroused when he claimed to have dug up a 600,000-year-old DVD player. Which unearthly revelations mean in the final analysis it's Ian and Rich who are looking dead and buried, behind as they are 7-6. Round 3 is that rare beast, a turkey. Odd one out, the name of the game, and Paul's the name of the panellist. His men of the moment being Al Gore, Tony Blair, the Queen, and the Little Mermaid.
The old joke about mermaids is beautiful, 34, 26 and 17 and 6 a pound. Well, Al Gore, he's the only one who's had his eyes pecked out by a raven.
What's Tony Blair doing, do you think?
It's what's been done to him, I think, more than a question mark.
That's what I was wondering.
Have they all been statues?
Would you like to explain?
No.
Right.
Gift.
Yes, it is.
They've all been given statues.
No, I'm going to have to give it to you. The answer is that they've all been given a singing fish. Billy Bass.
Oh,
singing
Billy the
fish.
Bass fish, yes.
Yeah.
There we are. This is the fish in question.
This is the saddest advert you've ever done, Angus.
No, it isn't.
Well, it's just a stuffed thing that sits there.
So you think, Paul?
I was talking about you.
Oh, right.
Years of technology. This is what we have to show for it. A fish that sings.
Yeah.
And George Bush.
Do you know where Clinton got the idea of buying Billy Bass fish from?
It was Hillary's idea.
It's from the Shopping Channel, apparently. He watches a lot of late
Well, he has
night
time
TV.
to now, doesn't he?
What, he's only the president?
Yeah, he doesn't care anymore, though.
Yeah.
Last week he was threatening to send troops into Celine Dion.
The Queen also has a rocky lobster, of course.
Well, you expect it when you get to that age.
The answer is that they've all been given a singing fish, with the exception of Little Mermaid, who is, of course, half of one. According to one royal aide, the purchase of a Billy Bass singing fish shows the Queen has a wonderful sense of humour, the same one she displayed last week when she put a banana skin in her mother's bedroom. Sean, your national heartthrobs are David Beckham, Jensen Button, Anne Widdecombe and Gary Porter.
Assuming that Gary Porter is some kind of militant farmer type, I reckon he has been stopped and nicked on the road for driving too slowly in some kind of mad road protest bit of malarkey. Anne Widdecombe, as we know, was nicked for speeding. Beckham was done for speeding. So it's Jensen Button, the racing driver, who's the odd one out, because he's not allowed to drive because he's only 12 or something. So he's never been nicked.
It's the farmer. He's slow. The others have all been nicked for driving too fast.
Is the right answer, Ian?
So who's the bloke on the tractor then?
He was in the news last week because he was sent a fine of £60 after police claimed speed cameras had caught his vehicle doing 87 miles an hour. An open and shut case, were his vehicle not a vintage tractor capable of top speed of 15.
Well, in which case I've libelled him by accusing him of being one of those maniac protesters, when in fact he's just an honest farmer.
You could be hearing
So
from
to
his
speak.
lawyers. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Porter.
Too late now. Because we'll edit out the apology. And who did Anne Widdecombe recently reveal she had the hots for?
Francis of Assisi?
No, Tom Jones.
Oh, don't be unfair,
Not
but I think she's a
unusual.
long way back in the queue.
Anne Widdecombe, dubbed Doris Karloff by the tabloids, recently told a journalist, "I've always had good legs, fabulous legs. I still do, although I never wax them." Quite right, a simple side parting is much neater. Rich, your yesterday's men are Ronald Reagan, John Major, Gerhard Schroeder and George W. Bush.
Ronald Reagan is the only one who doesn't remember he was in office.
I think it's an off-mic thing. A slip.
Yeah. Ronald Reagan once said something like, "Let's bomb Russia."
John Major was caught on ITN. He thought the microphone was turned off, and he admitted that 3 members of the cabinet were bastards. Incredibly embarrassing for Major, because we all knew they were all bastards. And Bush said something very embarrassing the other day when he thought no one was looking, didn't he?
Called someone a complete asshole.
It wasn't quite actually a complete asshole.
Or an
Major
asshole.
league
Major league asshole. Yeah.
If someone from... Was it the New York Times?
Yes, we can have a look at this particular gaffe now.
Adam Farmer, Major League asshole.
That's our president.
Schroeder's the odd one out.
Be Schroeder, because in Germany everything is satisfactory.
Right. No, Schroeder was in fact also recorded by a journalist.
You did say something recently, and I can't remember what it was. Was it something to do with the Holocaust?
No, that was another gaffe, actually.
Right.
He managed to turn off the eternal flame at
That's
Israel's
what I was thinking of, yeah.
Holocaust memorial.
He got it going against a lighty cigar, though, by the look of it.
No, this was a verbal gaffe. Well, he actually simply said, "Get me a bottle of beer before I go on strike here." And it was recorded by a journalist and released, and he's now number 2 in the German charts.
Reagan, he wasn't taped by a journalist, was he?
He was doing a sound check, so he knew he was being recorded, so that probably makes him the odd one out.
That
Is
would
the
be
right
chap.
answer.
Yeah.
Yes, well done.
Brilliantly done.
When asked at the Republican National Convention what he talked to his father about when they weren't discussing politics, Mr. Bush replied, "Pussy." So that'll be 3 presidents in a row with the same hobby. And finally, Ian, your specialist subjects are Scary Spice, the FA Cup, Saddam Hussein and Steve McFadden off of EastEnders.
Is this to do with copies?
Copies, you say?
Doubles? Is it because Saddam Hussein has a double and haven't they copied the FA Cup? She got stolen?
Is that Scary Spice at the top left, is it? Because she's the only one who can do 2 impressions of the man's head on the right.
She's obviously got doubles for the difficult bits.
Yes.
So the odd one out is
Steve
Ross bloke from Emmerdale.
But there's a reason why he'd been chosen. Because he was mistaken by someone in the street this year. You know about this?
For Greg Dyke.
Was he mistaken for Ian?
Oddly enough, yes.
What happened?
He was mistaken by an autograph hunter for Ian. And afterwards he said, "I didn't know whether to laugh or cry." In order to avoid paparazzi, Scary Spice uses a look-alike. In an interview in The Mirror about the breakup of her marriage, the Spice Girl declared, "Hey, shit happens." And to prove it, their new album's out this week. Which perfect match marks the end of these reflections, with Ian and Rich looking likely winners, leading as they do 10-9. And so to the virtual appeal of our final missing words round. A number of obscure headlines obscured further to aid misidentification, including 1, 2 or less from this week's guest publication, the indisputable brand leader, American Dry Cleaner. Chosen in honour of the outgoing president. So, we're going to begin with... Film censor wants what?
More filth. He thinks there's not enough.
Yeah.
Same size cock as he looks at all day.
And that's a big screen he's looking at as well. Is it not once more sex shops?
It's to do with sex shops.
Sex shop in every town.
Sex shop in every town, that's what he wants. It's ridiculous that there are hardly any sex shops outside of Soho, said Mr. Whittam Smith, who's obviously moving to the country. Next, at last, a fully automatic what?
Dry cleaner.
No, it is from American Dry Cleaner, actually.
Shirt stuffer.
Mangle.
If it's America, it's actually pistol.
It may well be, but that's not the right answer.
Cellophane paper sticker on round the sides in a shape over a hanger.
Suit hanger.
I think what you mean is garment bagger, which is not
Garment
that
bagger.
far off.
Yeah, that was pretty close.
Next, what in dogfight?
2 G's.
Brilliant.
Bush and Gore.
No, though it does involve a politician.
One politician is
Oh,
in
Mandelson.
Oh, Mandelson.
Mandelson.
No, Bobby.
Yes, Mandelson is right.
Oh, right.
And to prove it, here is the altercation.
Oh, you bitch.
And finally, robots to deliver what?
Jokes on Have I Got News for You?
Pizza by the year 2001 if you order it now.
No, physiotherapy is in fact the answer.
That's interesting.
Yes.
I would have said administer rather than deliver.
Why is that then?
Well, I just don't think you can deliver physiotherapy.
The news of the world.
Mind
Getting
you.
uppity about grammar.
Mind you.
Which barking nonsense means at the end of tonight's sorry tale, this week's lazy dogs are Paul and Sean with 12, while this week's quick brown foxes are Ian and Rich with 13. And since Ian's team has more points as a tribute to our American guest, I declare Paul's team the winner.
Recount.
Can't we send in our lawyers
Recount.
for the next 6 months?
No, you can't afford it.
My brother Jeb said this was a done deal.
But before we send them slip-sliding away, the lyrical attraction of our caption competition...
Sorry.
Book him down on Murder One.
It's a bowling team. Well, they'll never find semen stains on this shirt.
And I leave you with news that in Calcutta, it's day one of Railtrack's new franchise. Organisers of the World Chess Championships regret holding the final in Yalding. And in Westminster, Robin Cook begins the long process of selecting a new PA. Good night.
From Tuesday, 28th of February, UK TV Documentary is changing channel numbers in digital satellite homes. Our new number will be 532. So to help you remember where we are, why not add us to your favourites now? UK TV Documentary +1 moves to 533. Cable viewers are unaffected.